In 41 years of coastal engineering, what would you say have been the greatest developments?
Well, for me personally, I think the development of numerical models and numerical modeling, it started more or less when I started working, and I've been very happy seeing the development from something that was unimaginable to really seeing the bottom move, see the morphology change as a result of major infrastructure, or just trying to understand why tidal channels develop the way they do, why the bottom is scoured around breakwaters, things like that, which we've come a great way to do now. At the same time, observations, especially of the coastline, but also all sorts of other features of the ocean have been observed by satellites since the 80s, and especially the event of Google Earth that came about when I just started here at IHE. That gave us an enormous jump in being able to see the coast in zoomed out, zoomed in to really small scale level. That was very important, and nowadays we have all this big data that is freely available, global models, and we can combine those with our modeling approaches. So that is, let's say, on the science part, and on the coastal management part, there's been a huge impact of things like the management strategy of the Dutch coast through yearly nourishments, and also the advent of nature-based solutions has taken great leaps forward, and we're still struggling to find the methods to evaluate different options there, but it's clear that is the way to go.
And how does this relate to your career and achievements? And what are your most memorable moments?
Well, I've always been at the forefront of the development of these kind of models, so but the great moments came when people were interested in using them, and one big push was by the Rotterdam Harbour extension, the Maasvlakte, that was eventually built in 2013 or so, but we started simulating that in 10 years earlier, we've seen that the whole shape of that thing is changed completely to a natural rounded shape with soft sea defenses coming from designs with very hard structures mostly. So that has been great. A project like Flyland that was about a possible island in the sea, where we had a very multidisciplinary team from hydrodynamics to ecology, looking at all the impacts of such an island. Well, I've had a project in Grand Bassam, in Ivory Coast, where we've made a permanent opening for a river that was otherwise closing up all the time. And it's just been built last year, at least finished last year. Similarly, a project in Senegal where we evaluated the evolution of a big breach and the growth of a spit near Saint Louis, with a new model that nobody had a clue before how the system was working, and we can now more or less confidently simulate that for decades. So that those were pretty big highlights. Yeah.
Really good. And what would you say are the biggest threat to urban and coastal areas in, let's say, the next 50 years?
Well, I think one of the main threats to the coast is the coastal hardening. So the fact that people encroach more and more on the coast, that more and more infrastructure is built, and that takes away the flexibility of the coast to respond to events. And I think we should protect that living shore instead of concentrating on protecting whatever is there in front of the sea. Subsidence of the soil is a huge problem in all deltas, in fact, especially in tropical areas, but also here. And in many cases, this far outruns the effect of sea level rise. So if you're sinking by 10 centimeters per year, there's practically nothing you can do about that. So that should be a very first priority to stop that, and it's mainly due to water extraction for drinking in industry. There are many things we can do, especially make coastal communities aware. We can provide tools to analyze what happens, and also do scenario simulations of projections of what happens if you have a consistent policy of nourishment, or what happens if you build a series of groins that keep moving the erosion problem down drift. You can visualize that and make it accessible. You can also do, let's say, assessments of predicted coastal evolution on a scale from a country to a continent. And I think we should work on that and train the next generation.
Is that happening? Is that next generation being trained?
Yes. Well, we have this great Coast Hazard program here, which I hope will continue in the future, with bright kids from all over the world really learning in depth the processes that are related to coastal hazards and coastal erosion and modeling of it, but also developing scenarios to deal with it, to reduce the risk, and so on. And I think more and more coastal engineering faculties are moving away from the traditional hard engineering structures to more building with nature approaches and so on. Our partners certainly in Spain, the Cantabria and the Algarve in Portugal, they're clearly on that same track, as is the TU Delft around the corner. Yeah.
And name 5 changes that you think would have the greatest impact to coastal resilience.
The first thing is that it's not a problem here so much anymore, but in many countries it's the sand mining. People literally clearing away the sand from beaches and spits and using it for construction. And it seems like a small problem, but it's in the order of what all the rivers bring to the sea, so it's huge amounts. That should stop immediately. The next thing I would say is to nourish the coast where possible. And so if you have the sand, if you have the means to bring it near shore or to the beach, and that is the most flexible and sustainable solution, where you keep the natural aspects of your beaches. If you can't do that, you should enforce dynamic setback lines. So based on science, calculate what is a sensible area near the sea that you should have no permanent infrastructure on. because permanent infrastructure forces you to act in ways that go against natural development of the coast. You could also adapt building codes, like in many parts of the US. You cannot, if you're in a flood-prone area, you cannot have any permanent things on your ground floor. So you're supposed to live on the second floor, and you can maybe park your car downstairs. Things like that can have a big impact on, well, if you do have floods now and then, how to live with that. And then, of course, it seems very logical, but make sure that your critical infrastructure is not below flood level. Even during Hurricane Sandy, I mean, major parts of Wall Street were out of function because the computers were flooded. But we've had similar things with our major regulation systems for our water infrastructure in the Netherlands that was also below flood levels.
IHE Delft anticipate on these actions?
Yeah, it's a great many ways. I mean, we have our various programs, both our regular education program and our Erasmus Mundus programs, for instance, also on flood risk management. We, I think, are present at many conferences talking about this. We do tailor-made trainings, we do local courses. At the moment we're involved in courses in the framework of the Intergovernmental Panel on Deltas and Coasts in Colombia, for instance, training people to train their people to assess coastal erosion and to act on it. And to model it and to project the effects of management scenarios. So there are many ways we can add to the toolbox of people around the world and provide this community where young engineers are communicating with each other and learning the latest developments.
And what would you say to that new generation of coastal engineers looking to solve the global challenges the world faces?
Well, I think, so one engineer can't solve even part of the global challenge, but I think all the young engineers together, if they tackle their own problems, the coastal problems that they have influence on, that they are involved in, if they do that in a sustainable way, in avoiding unnecessary hard structures, stimulating the natural ways of protecting the coast, or dealing with hazards, then, and if they communicate and learn from each other, and all these positive actions together create a much more sustainable coastal world. So we should not be too gloomy about our possibilities. Of course, we cannot do much about mitigation, but we can certainly do a lot about adaptation. And a lot of the global problems, I believe, related to coasts and climate change, in many cases it's an addition of a lot of bad local management practices. And if we can turn that around, then we can really have an impact as young scientists.
And what would you say to yourself, looking back, if you were to do things differently? Are there other things you would do differently, or what would you tell your younger self going into the field of coastal engineering?
No, I think I'm pretty happy. I've had a lot of freedom at both Delft Hydraulics and at IHE Delft to do the things that I was really interested in, and I think young people should be aware that they can take that freedom. They should not be too much a slave of their worksheets and so on, but take the room to play around, develop, do things that haven't been done like they think it can be done, but that's not a reason not to try it. And I think there should be some free space, free experimenting space in every career, and I think I've been doing that, and it's been very fruitful to me, and I think to other people as well.
And next week you're doing your international symposium.
Yes.
And your valedictory address. I created the board.
Absolutely, yeah. So we'll have a symposium with I think about 70 people or so, also international. And it's focused on the future of coastal modeling. I didn't want to go out as an old fart just talking about what I've done. But we'll have breakout groups, and we'll hopefully end up with a draft paper on what we think are the important things in future modeling, whether it's with physical-based models or with artificial intelligence, big data. We'll try to make a good mix of that. And in my valedictory, I'll focus on what I think would be a good plan for the coasts worldwide, and that is to create the concept of living shores, and it's not entirely new, but the idea is to give priority to the protection of that living part of the coast, to that flexible part of the coast, and give that priority over the interests of maybe the people who happen to have a house there, or roads that have been constructed in the past and that are now too close to the coast. Let's prioritize the dynamic behavior of the coast for the benefit of the whole population behind it.
Okay, sounds like your work's not done.
It isn't.